think is an interesting effect of exercise early in the day, close to waking. So in the first 3 hours of waking will also help clear adenosine. Okay. So this is why
I want to flush this out of the system.
Yeah. And this is why I think, for me personally, the best time to work out for me would be late mid-morning. I'm a bit of a lazy bear in the morning. But what I find is every time I work out early in the day, I have more energy all day long. And I never know why that is. And it's because most likely it's because you liberate a bunch of dopamine and adrenaline from your system. So you get a long arc of activation and alertness. Plus you are eliminating whatever adenosine is there. And so you feel like you have a lot of energy throughout the day. So obviously if you train really, really hard and you deplete yourself, you're going to feel sleepy in the afternoon. This is another sort of tool type scientific factoid, which is that when you train very hard, whether or not it's endurance training or strength training or what have you training, you're directing a lot of oxygen and fuel utilization to the muscles and less goes to your brain. This is the brain fog that you feel in the afternoon or after a hard workout. So you have to learn how much you can work out, how long, how hard, so that you don't actually reduce your brain's ability to function. A lot of people think they have ADHD or brain fog. They're just training like a maniac early in the day, and then your body doesn't have different resources for brain and body.
I wonder if that has a cumulative effect on IQ.
Well,
the gym bros might not want to hear that.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because there's this kind of, I feel comfortable talking about, there's this sort of culture in academia where people are really, I know a lot of very smart people. I'm blessed to be surrounded by a lot of smart people inside and outside of academia. But generally, the academics I know are really into endurance sports. They run, they swim, they play tennis. It's rare that somebody goes to the gym with a specific interest in building muscle. That's not typically associated with the academic phenotype, although there are a few. I have some colleagues that one down at Baylor who's an exceptional neuroscientist. He's really into, for instance, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think times are changing now. I think people realize that at least what the science shows, that unless people get about 5 or 6 sets of reasonably hard work of resistance exercise per muscle group, that they're going to be losing muscle over the course of their lifespan. And so that resistance training is important for maintaining neuromuscular function and for maintaining function of the skeleton. Weight training sends a signal, believe it or not, from the bones. Weight-bearing or load-bearing exercises sends a hormonal signal called osteocalcin from the bones to the hippocampus to ensure the ongoing health of neurons in this area that controls memory. Beautiful work by Eric Kendall's lab, and others. Whereas if you're just gliding peacefully through the pool and doing your mile laps a day, you get the enhanced oxygenation of the brain. You get what we call glymphatic clearance, which is at night you get clearance of the debris out of the brain is enhanced by daily exercise, but you don't get these other systems. And that brings us back to this idea of what's the nervous system doing. An organism of any kind, us or an animal of any kind, it needs signals to tell the other organs of the body what they need to do. And so if you are forced, for instance, you force yourself to lift heavy objects or moderately heavy objects 3 or 4 times a week, your whole system of being able to engage muscles is maintained. I will say this, that people who engage in regular resistance exercise and cardiovascular exercise, you see them in their 70s, they're sharp, they're mentally sharp. Now, I did say both cardiovascular and resistance exercise. You see people who are just chronic runners or cyclers, they're always complaining about injuries, right? They look like they're going to dissolve into a puddle of tears if they trip on a curb. People who are very large and too large for their skeleton, you can see it, they have trouble breathing and their cardiovascular system isn't working. So the extremes aren't good, but the behaviors that we engage in send signals back to the other organs of the body how to react and behave. So I'm a big believer, based on the science I know, of getting 150 to 200 minutes or so of zone 2 cardio per week. Zone 2 meaning you could maintain, this, but you can maintain conversation, but the heart rate is up. And then doing resistance training, 3 to 4 times a week. And I think that creates a balance between the various systems that we're talking about. And I should mention that that's my preference, but that preference is based on what we know about from quality peer-reviewed scientific studies, not done by my lab, of what's taken to maintain the skeleton, to maintain the neuromuscular system, to maintain the cardiovascular system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think more and more people are talking about that now, the risk of sarcopenia, losing muscle and that leading to premature death. So
or trip and falling. I mean, we all, I'm 46 now, so I don't think about this too much. But, when you start to see your parents get into their mid to late 70s and you start to notice some frailty. I'm lucky that my parents are in good health, but that one fall can really diminish their well-being because they can break bones really easily. Or I have colleagues and friends who talk to me about it, the hip replacement. I'm like, hip replacement? You're a young person. What are you talking about, hip replacement? Well, they rode the bike like a maniac for 25 years, but didn't do anything else. Maybe did a couple like push-ups or something like that. So I think you have to, you get what you deserve, frankly, when it comes to physical exercise and health. I realize people come into the world with different propensities and genetic backgrounds, but when it comes to how well you maintain your strength and your well-being, grip strength, for instance, is a very good predictor of cognitive ability in later age. Not because being strong necessarily makes your brain better, but because generally people who have better grip strength in later age have been doing other things to maintain that grip strength, and there's a systemic positive effect.